Open an old medicine cabinet and look closely at the back wall. In some of them, you'll find a narrow metal slot, barely wide enough for a razor blade. A disposal slot normally leads to a container you can empty. This one didn't. Push a used blade through, and it simply disappeared into the wall. No bin, no drawer, no access panel. The empty space between the walls was the disposal system. And decades later, when some of those bathrooms are renovated, opening the wall can reveal piles of old razor blades still sitting exactly where they fell. But that creates a much stranger question. Why would manufacturers deliberately build a bathroom fixture designed to fill the wall with sharp metal? The answer only makes sense when you understand how shaving changed American bathrooms, and why, at the time, throwing a blade into a wall didn't seem strange at all. Look at the slot itself first, before anything else. On a surviving mid-century medicine cabinet, it sits low on the back panel, a straight cut in the sheet metal, just long enough and just wide enough for a single blade to pass through edgewise. On some cabinets it's plain, nothing more than a stamped opening. On others, small lettering identifies exactly what it's for: used blades, pressed right into the metal so there's no mistaking it. Homeowners who've found these cabinets in older houses describe the same detail again and again. The label is factory work, not something a previous owner scratched in with a screwdriver. That distinction matters. A jagged hand-cut hole would suggest an improvised fix, something one impatient homeowner rigged up on a Sunday afternoon with a keyhole saw. A stamped slot with a manufactured label is something else entirely. Cabinet makers of the period, companies like Miami Carey, whose branded cabinets still turn up in houses from the 1940s and 50s with their original disposal slot labeling intact, built this feature into their standard product line, the same way they specified a mirror size or a shelf count. Architectural researchers cataloging old bathroom fixtures have documented cabinets with plain cut slots and others finished with a small decorative tile framing the opening. A tile made specifically for this one purpose, sold and installed as part of the wall, not improvised after the fact. That level of finish suggests some installers treated the razor slot as a normal part of the bathroom's design, on the same list as the soap dish and the towel bar, rather than a hidden afterthought nobody was supposed to notice. The placement itself varied from house to house. In many surviving examples, the slot sits in the back panel of a recessed medicine cabinet, aimed directly into the stud bay behind it. In others, it appears lower, cut through the wall tile itself near the sink, independent of any cabinet at all. There wasn't one single blueprint every builder followed. What stayed consistent was the basic idea: a narrow opening, positioned somewhere within easy reach of a man standing at the sink, leading to a space nobody was expected to open again. So this wasn't a workaround. It was a purchased feature, the kind a builder specified along with the tile pattern and the faucet finish. The strange part isn't that somebody once dropped a blade into a wall. The strange part is that someone manufactured the opening specifically so they could. Which raises the next question: if the blade goes in, where does it actually go? Follow it. The cabinet itself sits recessed into the wall, set between two studs, with the sheet metal box occupying the space that would otherwise just be empty framing. Behind that box is the wall cavity, the same hollow space that runs behind every plastered or drywalled wall in the house, normally hidden and never touched again after construction. The slot in the cabinet lines up with an opening cut into the back of that recess. Drop a blade in, and gravity does the rest. It falls behind the cabinet, drops down inside the stud bay, and comes to rest wherever it first meets resistance, usually the horizontal framing member at the bottom of the wall, sometimes a nail, a pipe, or the edge of another blade already down there. There's no chute carrying it somewhere else. No secondary bin waiting behind the plaster. In the more basic installations, nothing stops the blade at all until it hits solid wood. Some cabinets used a small internal tray or box behind the slot instead, a genuine container that could, in theory, be reached and emptied. But a large number of surviving examples and a large number of documented renovation discoveries show blades that fell straight past the cabinet and into open framing, with no container involved at all. The wall wasn't hiding the disposal system, The wall was the disposal system, which is a strange thing to build into a house on purpose. Why would anyone consider bare wall framing to be a reasonable place for sharp metal? To answer that, it helps to go back to what a bathroom actually produced before this slot existed. For most of American history, a man who wanted a clean shave either used a straight razor and stropped it sharp himself, or paid a barber to do it with tools the barber owned and maintained. Either way, the blade itself wasn't something that got thrown away. It was sharpened, used again, and kept for years. That changed in 1903, when Gillette brought a new kind of razor to the American market. One built around a thin, replaceable steel blade, instead of a single edge you sharpened yourself. The idea was straightforward. When the blade dulled, you didn't strop it, you swapped it. A man could shave himself at home with results that used to require a barber's steady hand, and he could do it as often as he liked, because a fresh edge was never more than a new blade away. That convenience came with a side effect nobody had needed to plan for before. A bathroom that used a straight razor produced essentially no waste. A bathroom using replaceable blades now produced a small, thin, extremely sharp piece of steel on a recurring basis, week after week, year after year, in nearly every home where a man shaved himself. Multiply that by however many men lived in the house, and however many decades the house stood, and you get a genuinely new category of household object, something too small to be a normal piece of trash, and too dangerous to be treated like one. Dropping a used blade loose into a wastebasket created an obvious problem. It could cut through a paper liner. It could be reached by a curious child or a family pet digging through the trash. It could injure whoever emptied that wastebasket next, without warning, because there was nothing about a full trash can that told you a blade was waiting inside it. And unlike a broken glass or a bent nail, a used razor blade still carried a working edge, dulled for shaving perhaps, but still sharp enough to cut skin. Wrapping each one individually in paper before throwing it out was one option, and some households did exactly that, but it depended on somebody remembering to do it correctly every single time, week after week, for as long as they kept shaving. The innovation wasn't only a new way to shave, it created a new kind of bathroom trash, and nobody had designed a normal disposal method for it yet. So what do you do with something tiny, sharp, and no longer useful in a room that already has a cabinet built into the wall? This is where the design starts to make sense, if you look at it the way a builder in the 1930s or 40s might have. A wall cavity already existed behind every medicine cabinet. It cost nothing extra to use. It was, under normal circumstances, permanently sealed off from the rest of the house. Nobody was going to reach into that space during everyday life, which meant a blade dropped inside. It was, for all practical purposes, gone. There was no bin to remember to empty, no lid to keep shut, no container that could overflow or tip over. Compared to a wastebasket a child could reach into, an inaccessible cavity behind a sealed wall looked, at the time, like the safer option, not the careless one. That's not a documented quote from a manufacturer's ad. No surviving catalogue spells out the engineering reasoning, blade slot by blade slot. But the physical logic is plain enough from the design itself. The feature only works, and only makes sense, if the goal was permanent removal from daily household contact. One practical advantage would have been exactly that: a blade nobody in the house would ever touch again. The design only becomes absurd once you imagine opening the wall. Eventually, people did. Renovation is where this story becomes visible instead of theoretical. Contractors who work on older houses describe encountering these slots regularly enough that it isn't treated as a rare oddity in the trade. It's a known quirk of pre-1960s construction. One renovator interviewed by Reader's Digest described finding stacks of old blades behind medicine cabinets on repeated projects, explaining that the slot let blades fall into the cavity between framing studs, where they collected on top of the bottom plate. In one particularly unusual case from that same account, blades from a second-floor bathroom had traveled even further than intended, dropping through a hole cut for plumbing pipes and landing in the ceiling cavity above the kitchen below, only surfacing when the old plaster ceiling came down during a later renovation. Photographic documentation exists too. An Atlanta builder demolishing a home from the 1920s photographed the pile of old blades exposed once the wall came apart. A visual record of exactly what decades of quiet accumulation looks like once the covering is finally removed. Architectural researchers documenting historic houses have published similar photographs taken during restoration work, showing rusted blades still resting in the cavity where they landed, some fused together by decades of rust into a single dense mass, rather than a loose scattered pile. Homeowners posting their own discoveries describe much the same scene: a medicine cabinet pulled off an old plaster wall, and behind it, a small drift of corroded steel that had simply never been disturbed since the day each blade dropped in. What's notable across these accounts is how unremarkable the discovery feels to the people who make it, once they understand what they're looking at. It isn't treated as a mystery on site. Contractors who specialize in older houses recognize the slot on site and know roughly what to expect behind it. The surprise belongs almost entirely to homeowners encountering it for the first time. People who grew up without ever knowing their own bathroom wall might be doing the same quiet job in the background of their daily routine. For decades, the disposal system was invisible. A renovation makes every discarded blade visible at once. Which naturally raises a practical question. How many blades can a wall cavity actually hold before something goes wrong? Think about the scale involved. A standard double-edged blade is a few thousandths of an inch thick, thin enough that a stack of 100 of them barely adds up to the width of a deck of playing cards. A typical wall cavity, by comparison, runs several inches deep and multiple feet tall between one stud and the next. For scale, if blades landed and stacked with perfect efficiency, a single stud bay could theoretically hold many thousands of them before the pile reached the slot. In practice, blades don't stack that neatly. They land at odd angles, catch on protruding nails, lean against the framing, and settle unevenly, which means the usable capacity is smaller than the math alone suggests. But even accounting for that, one household's decades of shaving was unlikely to come close to filling the space. So capacity, by itself, was probably never the real problem. A family could use that slot for the entire time they owned the house and never come close to overflowing it. Whatever concerns this design created, running out of room wasn't likely to be the first one anyone noticed. The real cost showed up somewhere else, not for the person using the razor, but for whoever eventually had to work inside that wall. That's the part of this story that's easy to overlook, because the person dropping the blade in and the person who eventually finds it are almost never the same. A homeowner in 1955, sliding a used blade through the slot, had no reason to think about who would open that wall decades later. But eventually, someone does. An electrician running new wiring, a plumber replacing old pipes, a carpenter reframing a bathroom for a remodel. Loose, rusted blades hidden inside wall framing are a genuine hazard to that kind of work. Sharp edges hidden in places a hand naturally reaches, in a space nobody expects to contain metal at all. Contractors who specialize in older homes treat opening one of these walls with the same caution they'd use around any unknown sharp debris, because a corroded blade edge doesn't announce itself before it draws blood. The house itself never flagged the danger. A wall behind a medicine cabinet looks exactly like every other wall in the room, right up until it's opened. There was no warning label on the outside, no note passed down with the deed, nothing to tell a future owner what a previous one had been quietly depositing for years. The information that mattered, that this particular stud bay held decades of sharp metal instead of just insulation and wire, simply wasn't the kind of thing anyone thought to record. It lived only in the memory of whoever had used the slot, and that memory rarely outlasted the household itself. The system was convenient for the person who closed the cabinet door. The inconvenience was postponed for whoever opened the wall next. But the wall slot wasn't the only answer people came up with. Not every household used it, and not every manufacturer solved the problem the same way. Some medicine cabinets were built with an actual internal container behind the slot, instead of an open path into the framing, a small metal box that could, at least in theory, be removed and emptied, rather than a permanent one-way drop. That version of the design solved the same daily problem, keep the sharp edge away from hands that shouldn't touch it, without creating a permanent deposit inside the framing. Whether a given household ended up with the emptyable version or the wall cavity version often came down to nothing more than which cabinet the builder happened to install. Standalone blade banks also existed, small dedicated tins and dispensers, sold separately from the razor and the cabinet, designed purely to hold used blades until the owner decided what to do with them. These sat on a shelf or a windowsill, rather than inside a wall, and unlike the built-in slot, they were something a person actually had to remember to empty eventually. Some razor packaging of the era doubled as its own disposal method, with a resealable slot in the same container the new blades originally came in, so the empty package became the safe place to store the old one, a design that quietly solved the problem without requiring any construction at all. None of these approaches dominated the market completely. They coexisted, sold by different companies, installed in different houses, marketed through different channels, solving the same basic household problem in different ways. A man's choice of razor, more than any grand design decision, often determined which disposal method ended up built into his bathroom. The wall slot was a solution, not the solution. So why did it eventually disappear from new construction? No single event ended the practice. A few real changes, layered together, made the wall cavity slot obsolete. In the 1960s, blade manufacturers began producing stainless steel blades that held an edge far longer than the older carbon steel type, meaning a man might go through a fraction of the blades per year that he once did. The raw volume of waste the slot had been built to handle simply shrank. Around the same period, razor design itself kept shifting, moving toward cartridge systems and eventually fully disposable razors that didn't involve handling a loose blade at all. Bathroom design changed too, as built-in recessed medicine cabinets gradually gave way to surface-mounted cabinets and mirrors that had no wall cavity behind them to use in the first place. And household waste habits shifted generally, as small dedicated disposal containers became normal, cheap, and easy to find. People never stopped needing to get rid of used blades. The object that needed disposing of simply changed, less frequent, differently shaped, and eventually gone from most bathrooms entirely. And as it changed, the old slot solved a problem that fewer and fewer households actually had. New construction stopped including the feature, not because anyone decided it was dangerous or embarrassing, but because fewer builders saw a reason to keep specifying it. A slot costs nothing to leave out of a design nobody's asking for anymore. By the time cartridge and disposable razors were standard in most American households, a new medicine cabinet with a built-in blade slot would have looked less like a convenience and more like a mistake, a feature solving a problem the room no longer produced. So it simply stopped appearing in catalogs, the same quiet way most obsolete features leave a product line, not banned, not recalled, just no longer requested. If you want to spot one of these today, the signs are specific. Look for an original recessed metal medicine cabinet, likely from before 1970, mounted directly into the wall rather than surface hung on top of it. Check the back interior panel for a narrow horizontal cut, sometimes labeled, sometimes plain. A cabinet like that doesn't prove the wall behind it is full. Plenty of households never use the feature at all. But if a renovation ever exposes that cavity, the original purpose usually becomes unmistakable the moment the wall comes open. Some viewers may remember seeing one of these slots as a kid, in a grandparent's house or an old rental, without ever asking where it actually led. The strangest part wasn't that old bathrooms had a slot for used razor blades, it was that, for decades, nobody needed to know where the slot ended, because the answer was simply inside the wall. If you want more investigations into the physical details hiding in old architecture, subscribe.